But yeah, I had a client of mine, previous client and friend, asked to make a video on why women lose interest so quickly.
Right.
When we were working together, he had a situation where, well, prior, what triggered us to work together was, it's funny, there's so many layers to this. We had worked together prior about just having the ability to maneuver his situations with women comfortably.
Right.
Got in a relationship, lasted 2 years. He admittedly violated some laws that caused the woman to lose respect for him over time. Right? We kind of had conversations about that before, about him prioritizing keeping the peace within the relationship over telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And so he allowed a lot of conversations and a lot of quote unquote arguments to not be had because he's like, I just don't want any. And
I want to keep her happy.
I want to keep. So he prioritized her affection for him being in place, or more accurately, the way he'd say it, he prioritized not having contentious conversations over telling the truth and doing what's right. And so over time, this is a guy who thinks, well, it's logical. Oh, happy wife, happy life. Just let her win. You always hear stuff like that. But the thing about it for a man's long-term mental health and well-being is that the guy suffers. And many guys think particularly marriages, are very long-term relationships. The point is that she's still here. And as long as she's still here, I must be doing something right.
Right.
And as long as she hasn't left yet, she's here. But as you know, women's physical presence.
Oh, we be gone way before we actually gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So a woman checking out mentally, or more accurately, emotionally. And unfortunately, this is just an aspect of women, especially an immature woman that exists. If she checks out emotionally, the actions she takes, the cheating, the whatever, entertaining other men, will feel justified because she checked out emotionally, even if she didn't tell the guy.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the reality. And I got a guy comment recently saying he's in a 9-year situation. I feel for him, where he responded to a video where I was talking about if you're not having sex within the relationship, it's a friendship.
Right.
And he said that moment hit him in the short. So he didn't explicitly say it was sexless, but he indirectly said it was sexless based upon the fact that that point in the video touched him. So coming back to the previous client and friend, he, admittedly did some things from a good place that over time allowed his what's called emotional reputation with his woman. How does the woman feel about you when she hears about you, when she thinks about you? Every time we hear about someone, something, if I say Trump, depending on who you are, a certain emotion will arise when you hear that name.
Right.
If I say P. Diddy, if I say Kanye West, there's a certain emotional reputation each person has.
Right.
So similarly, each man has to be aware of the fact that he has an emotional reputation with his partner.
Yeah.
And that's being modulated and maintained and sustained throughout your interactions from the beginning of the relationship up to wherever it is now. And since today's topic is about what makes women lose interest so quickly, and I've said in previous videos that most problems in the back end of the relationship were crystallized in the front end.
Yeah.
The question then becomes, well, why in the cases where she was super hot in the front end and then 2-3 days later, a week later, she's cold, what happened, right? We were texting on the dating app and it was hot. We were flirting at work and then it went cold. We were on the phone and then it went. So it's like, what's going on?
Right.
And so initially I'd helped him with that. In fact, while we were doing the program at the time, he met the girl at the time through the apps. And prior to that, he wasn't having much success. And then we went in and tweaked a few things in his messaging, learning how to communicate. while remaining authentic, but also being charismatic. Like, so bringing out his own unique charisma, because every man has that.
Yeah.
It's more accurate to say that it's blocked.
Mm-hmm.
The example we gave, last time was it's like a white light shining through, and it's shining through a particular kind of glass, and so the full light isn't coming out, but the light is back there.
Yeah.
But if the glass is very dense and foggy and dark, only maybe 10% of the light's coming through.
Right.
So what we do a lot of times is go in and do a sort of psychological surgery and training to where the guy's charisma can naturally radiate.
Right.
So that's training he's gone through before, and so he had gotten to that, which is why he had gotten the girlfriend. And around that time, it was actually his first time being with around 2 women, more than 1 woman at a time.
Yeah.
And then he ended up choosing his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So after the breakup, back on the market, and he was back on the market, actually feeling pretty good, because going into the relationship prior, he was, the best version of himself he had ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Up to that point, his style was a lot better. His confidence was on point, all the things.
Yeah.
Coming out of the relationship, he still felt that because he broke up with her, because he had spoken to her about the attitude thing. The issue was that the example he was setting was the thing
That
created it and was sustaining it. So he thought having a conversation about it would be the shift. But, as I've said in multiple videos, the only language a woman speaks is action.
Mm-hmm.
She's always watching what you do, not what you said.
Right.
So if what you said doesn't match what you did, she doesn't care.
Never said it.
It's like you never said it.
Yeah.
So, and we won't go into why that is. I've said that in enough videos.
Mm-hmm.
But so coming out of it, it felt pretty good. And for about the first 2-3 months or so, you actually was getting dates, getting meetups, using the information he acquired from this previous, the 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, he'd noticed initially was we couldn't get second date. Then I can't remember what exactly. I believe we spoke, and then I don't want to lie about that, but I believe we spoke, and then he managed to adjust a few things and started getting the second. But no matter what, it would fizzle out. The woman would eventually, her text cadence would change. Mm-hmm. And it would just die out. And he's like, dang, back to the drawing board. But that pattern would repeat over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about it probably, if the breakup was in April or early in the year, it was not until maybe fall where this pattern was. We spoke about it, and it was like, oh, this pattern is still going on. Would you like some help with that? And then he redid a full training, because prior was like, a session here, but it was like a full training.
Yeah.
And at that time, after the first session, he got his first match, because he was still using the apps at the time.
Right.
And from there, the match went smoothly, and they ended up seeing each other for quite some time. Mm-hmm. I think maybe 2 months or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then that fizzled out for other reasons, right? Other blind spots that we ended up discussing. And so recently he's made some transitions, had his new place, and just killing it on all fronts, career, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yet, because his own place, house, all that. So it's like, okay, well, it's not like he is lacking or he doesn't enjoy his own company, but it's like, if I could have a year, it'd be nice to have a companion, a woman. You could have sex, you could have the feminine experience that's in alignment, that shared companionship,
yeah,
right? The enjoyableness of the opposite sex, right, that women like and men like. And so that's not something that wouldn't be nice, right?
Right.
And so he started back putting himself out there again. And around the time I spoke to him, I saw him in person last, he was telling me about a match he recently had, and then from there I was looking through his text conversation, and he, you know, he said he'll never send a crying laughing emoji again in his life, but because he, you know, and I know he's going to be watching this, he claims that I dogged him out about that.
I could see that.
Well, support. But I wouldn't say I dogged him out about it. I merely suggested alternatives.
Right. So what did that sound like? How did you suggest it?
I was like, have you ever considered
Yeah,
the potential
that ain't. I doubt it.
No, but more or less what it was, once I saw the text convo, which is interesting because this woman had decent interest. Mm-hmm. Once I saw the text convo, I was like, she must really like you, because there's so many rules being broken here. Mm-hmm. There's so many rules being broken here.
Right.
And when I read back his text message to him in the context to which I was seeing it, I was like, he's like, okay, I see your point. I see your point.
Right.
Right. He got a little defensive, but you know, he got through it.
Right.
Right. And so switched his text cadence, and long story short, they ended up going out. Mm-hmm. From his point of view, they had a great time. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, so that was the last time I spoke to him when we had that conversation. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, talked to him maybe 2-3 weeks after that. Mm-hmm. And the girl was sweet enough to reach out and say, hey, you know, it wasn't just like a straight ghosting, but more or less saying like, you know, I don't see this going anywhere. Mm-hmm. When initially from how the cadence started, I could see the interest was high, and I could see had he done the right things in his communication from jump, so much of that would have been different without him changing who he is. Yeah. So where a lot of guys are losing women that would be amazing for them is by these unconscious habits. And this is somebody who's gone through training, text trading as well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, there's so many mistakes here. Mm-hmm. Now, they're far less mistakes than there were in the initial text training. You wouldn't even get past the second message. Yeah. But so he was able to carry the conversation, but there were so many mistakes in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow. And it took some time for him to be able to see. And this was it's a common thing with guys I work with. It takes a lot of breaking down for them to see I'll just label the problem because I was trying to just give the example, but to see how in each text they're sending to the woman, they're more or less saying, please like me. Right. They're not actually sharing who they are and inviting the woman into who they are and into their world. They're saying, please allow me into yours. Right. And I don't think guys understand how sensitive to that women are, even if they can't articulate it. But they'll know emotionally and just go, I don't like this guy. And that'll be the end of the interaction. Right. And so it's like, dang, why is she losing interest so quickly? Coming back to the point. And so as we were speaking and he was telling me that, you know, that's how that ended, I asked him, I was like, well, do you have any questions? And he said this was a question that was common on the internet. Why do women lose interest so quickly? So I figured I'd make a video on it. Right. He had another question that he asked. That would be a different video, but I don't think this would hurt, even given the situation he's experiencing. Yeah. Because the reality is, if we knew why women were losing interest so quickly, we'd stop it. Yeah. So if they're losing interest quickly and you don't know why, then you need to change something, and you have a blind spot around it. You need new information. There are blind spots you have. Right. So let's lay down the groundwork of what makes a woman want to have a sexual relationship with a man, because that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about how to get a female friend. I don't think guys on here are having trouble having a female friend, right? what they're having trouble with is having the woman they want, or the kind of woman they want, to want them back, or having a woman desire them and be excited about it, rather than feeling like, dang, she just tolerates me, she's disrespectful, she treats me poorly, she speaks to me disrespectfully.
Right.
What would it be like if a woman treated me with adoration, respect, and was very cooperative and excited to see me whenever she was away from me, right? So it's like, what would that look like? Right. So my goal here is to have guys know what they need to do to have that experience.
Yeah.
So the first thing a guy must understand is every woman that you ever see with any man, especially if she's excited about being with them and she loves them, she's doing it because it benefits her.
Right.
No woman is in love with a man because she's doing him a favor. So it's really important to understand that a woman wanting you or not wanting you is based upon what's important to her. And that's not a negative thing. Why would you want to be with someone that doesn't do it for you, right? Plus, as a man, do you want a woman who doesn't really like you that much and is doing you a favor?
Heck no.
By tolerating your presence, right? So it's really important. It seems like common sense, but it's really important to understand that women are glued to men that they love because it benefits them. So the question is, how does it benefit them? It benefits them because when they're around that man, it triggers certain positive emotions in them that they can't get anywhere else.
Right.
Right. I know there's a lot of dialogue online about being whole, and I'll have a whole video on that. And so I think people confuse being whole with not needing anyone, right? Or being whole with not having any requirements or expectations or desires from other people. That's not what that means. It means that if that person were to choose to leave, you wouldn't die.
Right, you'd be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can access every experience of life by yourself. You can't.
Right.
Sorry, it's impossible. Right. Unless, I always bring this case to people, I'm like, unless you're saying nature made a mistake.
Right.
Life, arguably the most important thing, consciousness, new consciousness, which is what life is when you bring a baby into the world. It's a new consciousness, a new point of view on reality, a unique being that's never existed before, which will bring a unique point of view that's never existed before. New life, new consciousness. For that to be created, for that to come into reality, it requires two
people.
It requires a male and a female. You can't do anything about it. So if nature's blueprint mandated men and women to come together in order for birth, in order for creation and life to come into existence, anyone who ever says you don't need male, or you don't need men, you don't need women, is fundamentally claiming that they know more than nature. And if nature is that which birthed all things in existence, you could call it God. What you're essentially saying is, I make the rules and I know more than God. And even though men and women do exist, even though males and females do exist, I'm going to declare that I know more than nature, and I don't need, and there's no value to the opposite sex. Even though it was mandated, and we'd all go extinct if everyone had that assumption. To say you can have every experience of life, even if you're alone, would be to say that the creation of each other is unnecessary, meaning the existence, more accurately, of the opposite sex is unnecessary, and that's just not true. Now, can you have experiences of life on your own? Yes. Do you always need another person all the time? No.
Right.
Are there experiences that you'll never have because you don't have a partner? Yes. Right. Are there heights you can never reach because you're always alone? Yes. And so going back to that, men need to understand that there are certain heights that a woman can't experience without a man. there's certain emotional heights that a heterosexual woman cannot experience without a man. Women instinctively know this. And there's certain emotional heights, or you could argue emotional depths, that a man can't experience without a woman. Mm-hmm. And so the coming together, the union of those two things, give a person access to things they could have never imagined prior to meeting the right person. Now, women instinctively know this in some sense, even when they're, in a hate man mode. Mm-hmm. Because the highest priority, and this is important for the guy looking to understand this, highest priority for a woman is to feel good within the man's presence that she's with. Right. And so when she's going out on a date with a man, what she's pinging for is, how do I feel within his presence? Mm-hmm. She's not conscious of it. But when she leaves that date and you are like, oh, well, why is there a second date? You're looking at it going, oh, nothing went wrong. Right. She's looking at it as, am I excited to see him again? Right. Right. Now, a woman not being excited to see you again doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong, so to speak. Right. But oftentimes what I notice when I actually have guys, one of the things in a new aspect of the program is having guys be in a call with an actual woman and doing drills to see what they're actually doing. Right. Excuse me. What they're actually doing when they're having interactions. And that allows me to see the blind spots they can't see. Mm-hmm. So they're talking and they're thinking, oh, that went great, because it's just their point of view. Yeah. But when I actually put them on the call, have them have the interaction with the woman, I'm like, oh, no wonder she never comes back. Right? This is terrible. So, but in a good way, right?
Yeah.
This, thank goodness.
You can see.
Yeah, this is, of course she's not coming back. Right. This is, this is great. Like, now we get to, and it's in a safe space so that nobody knows. And, it's like, okay, great. I don't have to go on 20 dates and still not know what happens. I can go in the lab with a professional, right, with an actual woman. And then it's like, okay, now I can see where my flaws are. So when you actually go on a date, it's like the connection. And she's like, man, I have never met someone so charismatic, not knowing you went through that training beforehand. Yeah. So going back to, so she's always pinging one. How does she feel within your presence? Mm-hmm. Right. That's it. That's why it's so frustrating when a woman says, oh, I want a nice guy, I want a gentleman, da 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 da. And guy's like, I'm all that. But what she's leaving out is she doesn't feel attraction or excitement or arousal, more accurately. More arousal, because you need arousal for sex to occur. She feels no sexual arousal in your presence. Yeah. And so when you add the gentlemanness to it, it doesn't make a difference, because she doesn't feel the sexual arousal to begin with. Yeah. So it's like, well, what makes a woman feel the sexual arousal to begin with? And the answer to that is a combination of the man's physicality, his sex appeal, mm-hmm. and the man's personality. Right. But that doesn't mean that, let's say I'm an incredibly handsome, charismatic guy. That doesn't mean that every woman will be sexually aroused by me. Right. So there is an element of alignment where, just like how a man can see a woman that he finds physically beautiful but feels no sexual attraction towards, mm-hmm. right? That's the difference between being attractive and being attracted. Right. I can see a woman and go, oh, she's attractive, but I'm not attracted. Yeah. Right? I wouldn't have sex with her, or it would require a lot mm-hmm. for me to follow through with that. But she's not an ugly woman. Right. Similarly, a woman can be like, oh, that's a handsome guy, good, mm-hmm. but feel no sexual desire towards him whatsoever. Yeah. Right. So similarly, a man's first job is to get rid of the gunk that's blocking the charisma, right? So the light of himself that's coming through, that natural, flowy, charismatic expression of himself. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be Russell Brand or your stand-up comedian level. Because not every woman is looking for that. Or wanting that. Exactly. Yeah. So it's seeking alignment with the type of woman that works for that man. Yeah. Right. So it's like, well, if that's the case, most guys feel like, oh, but I'm already doing that. That's the problem. You think you're already doing that. Mm-hmm. But you don't have anybody doing reviews on the film of your conversations with women.
Exactly.
So how you think you're showing up and how you actually are showing up are so different.
Right. Especially like you don't know how it's being perceived on the other end.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And you're going to understand even less how it's perceived if you don't already, have a bulk of experience of women treating you with reverence and excitement. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a lot of data on that, right, then how are you going to know you were showing up ideally? And again, it's not showing up ideally in a way where you're changing who you are. Right. The biggest thing I see that causes women to lose interest quickly is the guy, again, in some way trying to get her to like him, mm-hmm, while denying that that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's in denial about it because of his pride.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at the data, when I look at text, when I look at the film, more or less, mm-hmm, I'm like, in almost every other word, I can sense you needing her to like you rather than going up and going, if I never see you again, that's okay. Yeah. The disposition a man should be having is, let's see if this works. I'm curious about you. Let's see if this works.
Yeah.
Not, please like me. Oh my goodness, it would be so great.
And that's a good one that I'm curious. Like, there's a super importance on like curiosity versus like being sold on a person.
And what makes you say that?
Because like if you're curious, it's like I'm evaluating like who you are we in alignment? But if I'm like, let's say I'm a man, which I'm not, but let's say I'm a man and I see a woman, she's gorgeous or whatever, and it's like, oh, that's the one. Like, so you already sold on her before she even opened her mouth, before anything, instead of having a curiosity. It's like, I need to get to know you because you don't know who that girl is. You just meeting her. So it's like, you need to be curious to take in the data of who that person is and are we aligned? Are we compatible? Looking for compatibility. Not just, oh, how can I make her like me? This person I'm already sold on.
So as a woman, why do you think a man who's already sold on you just from seeing you, what about that isn't as alluring as if he had the disposition of, I'm not going to lie that I'm attracted to you. I'm going to tell you you're a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invite us to continue this. Let's say it's something where I'm meeting you in passing.
Yeah.
We're going to exchange information right now. And we're going to continue this conversation later. We're going to continue this interaction later.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious about the woman you are. I'm not curious about what you look like. I already like that. I'm sold on your looks. Mm-hmm. But I don't know anything else.
Right.
So what about it as a woman makes a big difference for a guy who's almost leaned back like, I'm going to evaluate whether or not you're a good fit, rather than, I already know you're a good fit, and my job here is just to get you to think I'm a good fit.
Well, first of all, like usually guys that approach, like let's just say me, like if I've ever been approached in that way, it's almost like like you don't know me, and if you feel thirsty, like you like, oh, what can I do to get you to like me? It's like, if you a cool dude and you being yourself, like if the compatibility there, then I will like you.
Right.
Like, yeah, I will like you if the compatibility is there. But if it's more of a like, oh, like I'll drink your bathwater, it's like, ugh, like
right.
It's for women at least, it's almost disgusting. It's like it's repulsive. That's the word. To where it's like, oh, I don't want to talk to you because it's just some within us that's like, he want me to like him too bad. He want me to like really like him, and it's like, and we never go for, even if we do go for those type of dudes, it'd be like like you're not really my type, but like I'll
give it a go.
Give it a little go. But then we never end up liking that guy. So.
Right. And then when the guy that's not like that, you meet him, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to pick him up.
I done cut off several dudes for the dude that did it for me. Like, right. It's like, oh, like, yeah. And that's just how it is. But those same guys don't be realizing that they doing what they doing. Like, they just, I don't know. It's kind of, probably as women we shouldn't do that, like where we like just still talk to them anyways,
Right.
That's just kind of how it go.
Right.
So.
And it's important that we're not living our life on shoulds.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, she shouldn't. Right. Well, it may happen, so you need to do what you need to do to ensure that
you're not in that situation.
Correct.
Yeah, because it's gonna happen anyways. Like a lesser version of myself, you know, that just used to be the thing, like a placeholder type.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's there's so many things that that were said there that I have to translate. Right. Firstly, if you are listening up to this point, you hear or you heard what she said. She mentioned that it just feels off. It's repulsive. But she doesn't know exactly why. If you asked her to articulate it, she may be able to do a decent job of it. Or even the woman in mind for the guy listening. It's like, well, why? And then you're, oh, well, I just need to pretend that I'm not interested. No. A lot of the things online are misguided because they don't understand the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. Right. Firstly, let's address the attraction. Right. So when she says that, oh, you just got to be yourself, it's like, oh, we've heard that all along. Or we heard that a million times. I'm myself and women don't like me. That's another misconception. Again, you think you're showing up as yourself.
Right.
But what you're showing up as is a filtered version that is nothing like the man you are when you're behind closed doors.
Right.
It's a version that you think she may be more, oh, I can't say that, with the fake smile and the kind of hesitant attitude. You think you're being yourself. Mm-hmm. Right. But the version of you that's more accurate to being yourself would be something like if that woman said to you, hey, I'll never sleep with you. You'll never even sniff this. Mm-hmm. Right. But you're still forced to have a conversation with her. That'll be closer to what your actual self would be.
Hey, that's a good example right there.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's exactly what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so when guys flip, when they realize the woman has no interest and they go, oh, you're ugly anyway, you're fat and nasty. One, they're being reactive, but that's closer to his real self. Mm-hmm. Right. Because if you'd flip that quickly, that means you had a facade. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, well, what's wrong with that? Well, if you think about it, right? What causes a woman to feel good in a man's presence, right? We are just going to boil it down to, again, his looks, physicality, and that's going to vary. Some women like really skinny guys, some guys like really muscular, some girls like bigger guys, taller, shorter, whatever, right? You can't know that ahead of time. So if you're a shorter guy, if you're a taller, skinny, lanky guy, like you don't know. So you don't want to make a decision for the woman that you're attracted to before you even speak to her. Right. I know that's easier said than done, but that's a whole different thing. Developing the courage, because I relate and understand where each and every man is coming from in regards to that, because I was there, right? But going back is like, okay, if it's a combination of my physicality and personality, my presence, right, then you're going to maximize your physical looks to the utmost of whatever you actually value. So if you're a fat guy and you're like, well, the reality is that being not fat, there are women who will want a fat guy, and then most women won't have a fat guy as their first choice. So if it's really important to you to stay fat, then by all means. Right. If it's not that important and it's more of just a lifestyle habit of laziness, then you want to optimize your physicality to get in shape. Yeah. If you would value being in shape more, and the range of women you'll have access to will increase. So that's what some guys misconstrue. When you get in shape, let's say you go from fat to fit, it's not that the body makes the woman want you in that way. It's that the certain looks gives you a wider range of access to more women. So it would be like if I went into a room, I know if I go into a certain room, if there are 10 women in there, 9 out of 10 of them will be like, I'd be receptive to him if he approached me. Right. So the question is, what about that man makes 9 out of 10 of the women receptive? And then another guy steps in, 1 out of 10 are receptive, meaning just on the initial impression of the man.
Right.
Right? His body language, his physical appearance, his style, just the eye, what you can perceive with the eye.
Yeah.
His vocal tonality, what you can perceive with the ear as well. Right? But 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10, 10 out of 10,
Right.
right, will be receptive just on physical appearance. Right? And many guys are showing up physically as men they wouldn't even want their daughters to be with.
Right.
Right? And then go, women aren't for me. You know, I'm not a Chad or a Tyrone, whatever the internet thing is, right? My jaw isn't chiseled enough, my beard isn't full enough, or whatever the thing is, right? Because it varies from, you know, year to year.
Yeah.
So, one, you're determining what the woman wants without knowing her.
Right.
So you're telling yourself what women want based on something you saw on the internet. And it's really imperative to think about when you see something on the internet, especially these stoic videos or the Sigma male stuff. If you take note, this is like a semi-tangent, but we're going to rant today. It's really critical to understand that information may sound good, but take note of the fact that you almost never see, or if ever see the guy. I guarantee you, a guy, and you know, a guy who has an abundance of women in his life that adore him, that like him, that reverence him, that respect him, is not on the internet making faceless videos about being a Sigma male.
Is it Sigma or Alpha?
I think
Whichever
a Sigma is
one it is.
whichever one it is, but I've
They
seen
always coming up with them.
I've seen a Sigma thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't know. It's irrelevant what it is. That's the point.
Yeah.
Right?
That is the point.
Are there character traits that are patterns that a man can have that some women will like? Yes, right. But that's the thing. Some women, and it's contextual.
Yeah.
And if you're not a guy that the woman is with, or not a guy that various women are always in the face of, you're going to see, you may have one friend that has a particular pattern and you're like, oh, well, but you're ignoring all the women he doesn't attract.
Right.
You can't have the data with just the ones he does. If I approach 1,000 women and I sleep with 100 women, I have a 90% failure rate.
Right.
I mean, if you focus, you've been with 100 women, you have a 90% rejection rate.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't ignore that aspect of the data. What made all these women not want him?
Right.
So I think oftentimes we skew it, and then if you're online, some guy is showing a particular thing, you're only seeing the women that were receptive. He's not showing the women who didn't want him. Because there's no value in that unless he wants to admit the truth.
Yeah, I mean that's how social media is in the first place. It's only like showing the good, not the bad or the thing that goes against what they want you to see.
To perceive them as, right. And so it's really important to understand that no matter who you're perceiving, no matter how chiseled the jawline, the height, what you see online is the public version, the recorded footage of things going that person's way. And that's fine because you want things to go your way most of the time.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to set a false expectation for the average man thinking, right? Because, I won't go into that, right? But because, that friend I was thinking about, he'll always make jokes because from time to time we'll go out and whatnot. But I don't think even bringing that up is of any value to my audience. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that there. I think there will come a time where I'll share a bit more about, like, for example, this weekend or, some things like that where they're like, oh, wow, that's like, you know, as I always say to you, it feels so normal to me.
Yeah, but it's definitely not to the average.
The average person would think like, that's crazy. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I do think there are going to have to come times where I'll share the stories for credibility. Plus, it's not something I want to hide.
I don't think, probably not now, but
in due time.
In due time, yeah.
Have it be an organic thing where it's a story relevant to the point. But it's just funny because I had a guy on a sales, like we were doing a free consultation call, and he asked me, it's like what kind of, and I was like, I chuckled because I just didn't think, he knows himself. I've never had anybody inquire. But he was like, just from some things you said, it wasn't
Too
surprising.
out of the box, right?
It wasn't which was surprising to me because I'm like, I've made so little content. So how do you know that?
How do you know?
You should know all that. But back to the topic, right? And so a woman's pinging always for how she feels in a man's presence. And oftentimes the reason you don't get a woman is because your presence is trash, right? So we were just talking about physical appearance.
Yeah.
Right. When you improve your physical appearance, your style, right? Your style, your actual physique, maybe even your grooming. What it does is it increases the range of women that would be open. But that's just the physicality part of your presence.
Right,
and
that's one part.
That's one half, and it's not even the most important half. Mm-hmm. It's useful. It's useful. It's useful to reduce the amount of work you need to do with your personality, but it doesn't bypass your personality, right? Like a woman can see you're like, oh, he's just my type, and you open your mouth and it's like, oh God, right?
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. This is very common.
Yeah. So
it's like, oh, guys online will call that, or not even online. This is a thing guys say, talking your way out of the pee, right? So it's, she was already there, and you're just saying all kinds of nonsense, and she's like, it's not a good
thing. So.
Right.
I didn't even know that was the thing that y'all.
Yeah, it's a thing, which is funny. Women don't even know, right? But my point is that, with that in mind, guys are just personality their way out of the pee, right? They're dope dudes, but when there's a woman that they're attracted to in front of them, they have a lot of blind spots, texting pattern, communication patterns that are fundamentally. But stop personalitying your way out of the pee, man. You need to personality your way into the pee, right? Because that's what most guys are concerned about, getting access to the woman physically. And we'll do a conversation on the 4 levels of sex, so that you can understand that that's the second highest level. It's the second lowest level, depending on how you want to look at it. So it's not even the highest. But and I get that, right? Like if you hadn't had any physical encounter, this could be your first time. It's been a long like that, wanting it to go right, wanting it to work more accurately. You're oozing that wanting it to work, and that state of being causes you to operate in a fearful way of communication. So there's a certain joke you would say. You're like, oh, I don't want to say that joke, right? Because you're filtering yourself based upon whether or not that would offend her for her to leave. Yeah. Right. And so you're on the date, or you're approaching the woman in real time, and it's like this diluted version of yourself. Yeah. Right. This filtered version of yourself that is led by the fear of, what if she doesn't receive me? What if this is the 10th woman to reject me today? Right. And so that's what dries up the pee in terms of your personality. It's not, and the woman could just genuinely not be aligned with you as well. And that's a blessing, right? Okay, great. Physicality wise, we may have been aligned, but personality wise, we weren't. Right. which would mean that if you actually moved forward with that situation, it would be awful dynamic, right?
It wouldn't even work out.
It wouldn't work out.
And I don't think they understand how valuable it is to realize that somebody is not aligned with you. Like, it's really valuable because you don't want to end up with and around a person who you're just not aligned with.
Well, the average guy, and I'm coming to understand this, when you have little to no companionship and you've been indoctrinated with the assumption that this woman, if she does leave, you're not fully certain that there'll be an alternative. Like, a man will take sex once a year, 2 minutes of it. It's almost pity sex. Deep in the marriage, hardly any respect. May have kids together, but it's like, she's here.
Yeah.
Right? And the alternative is for me to be alone. And so there's this scarcity, I'm not enoughness built in him that he doesn't realize is not who he is,
Right.
but is what he's been taught and the conclusions he's come to. But there's information and exercises and experiences that he could get access to that would free him from that thought process. And so the women he'd have access to would be higher quality, or the woman he already is with, which I call from the relationship reset program that we have. This is called reintroducing yourself to your woman, right? Because a woman's going to reflect the man you are. And so if the reflection you're getting is one of disrespect, no sex, no desire, boredom, right? Then, and we'll go into the boredom thing next, about how she feels in a woman's presence, how a woman feels in a man's presence. If that's her experience, if that's the experience a man is getting back, a big portion of that is a reflection of how you're showing up. And so she has come to predict you to be the man, the type of man she can disrespect, the type of man she's not aroused by, the type of man that's predictable and boring, amongst many other things, right? You can't really know what the serious issue is until you know the details of the situation. But she's come to know you as that type of man. And so it's like, I don't feel great in this presence. And as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, if she emotional reputation with you becomes, I don't really enjoy his presence.
Yeah.
Most women will likely, because women are always getting offered or getting invites into other men's world, she's going to get a taste of a man's presence that excites her.
Yeah.
And she's going to start craving that, and she's going to start mentally comparing your presence to his. Right. Now, the ideal thing would have been for her to break up with you, then go engage in that. But the reality is most of the time that's not what's going to happen, which is why a lot of guys will be like, whoa, she just hopped up and left me. She was in a relationship the next day, or she was with a different guy the next day. And oftentimes that guy came into the picture, she enjoyed his presence, and it excited her and brought her to life emotionally. And as I mentioned early in the video, there's certain things a woman cannot access without being in the presence of a certain man. And so that's why women are always going like, I just wasn't feeling him. And then with a particular guy, she's like, oh my God, I don't know what it is about him, but it's exciting her emotionally. Right. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's a gangbanger or a motorcycle. Like, if that's what does it for that particular woman, that can be the case. But you could be a video game playing dude. It's not necessarily about that, right? What it's about is how on your square are you, and how in alignment is she with that lifestyle? Because there's some women who never want to go on a motorcycle, never want to deal with gangbang, but she'll sit in there and play Pokemon cards with you, right? And that's like the peak.
Yeah.
So alignment is critical, as you mentioned. But going back to how she feels in a man's presence, it's like, well, if your physicality is improved with your style, your grooming, your body is improved, when you enter that room, the previous version of yourself, only one woman may have been open. And now it's 5 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, depending on how the transformation is.
Yeah.
However, she is just receptive to you. That does not mean when you go over there that she'll go beyond anything other than like, oh, he was cute. And that definitely doesn't mean you're getting any sex. Right? So the man you show up as, the bulk of your presence is dependent upon your personality.
Right.
Which is why a lot of times guys who aren't as good looking as others will have way more women on them than others. Because the guy who has the physical part of the presence down, its personality aspect, is a 3 out of 10.
Right.
But he over leverages looks a lot. And just doesn't get the same level of results as the guy who's a 6 out of 10 in looks, 10 out of 10 in personality and charisma. Right. And the women are all over him. So that's the most important thing. Now, once you've removed what I call remove the gunk, right? Cleaned up the glass that the light is shining through, so it can shine through 100% or very close to it. Then when you start going out, you're going to be boom, 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 boom. There will be a radiance to your presence that when a woman encounters it, even if she's not that attracted to you, will enjoy, or will even cause certain women to go, oh, I wasn't thinking of him physically in that way, but, you know, his personality has won me over in a way where it's like, okay, I could consider this now, right? And because the personality aspect of a man is more important to the woman than the physical, especially when it comes to sustaining a dynamic long term, that helps the guys who, and I know online, you know, women will say, oh, if he ain't 6'10" and blah, 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 if he doesn't have a 6-pack, and all that is nonsense. All that is nonsense, right? If you're a guy that's reasonably well versed with women, or been with a sizable amount, or been around a sizable amount of women, and if there's a woman watching this, or a variety of women watching this, they know that the guy that they're sneaking around with is none of that. Most of the time, they wouldn't even show him to their friends or in public, because she knows he ain't all that physically. It's not 6'3", doesn't have a 6-pack. It's not that cute in the face. But for whatever reason, that's the guy she's messing with, for a variety of reasons, right? Could be, there's so many reasons, like too much to label here. But they wouldn't, it's not someone they'd go strolling around town with proudly, right? But they may still be having sex. So you don't want to conflate or buy into the nonsense you're hearing online about what a woman says and who she's actually opening her legs to, right? It's just not true. Most guys are not any of the things women label physically. So if you aren't that and you're like, man, I thought I was cooked, you're not cooked. Right? If you can develop the charisma, right, and a certain masculine presence to you, and develop your body grooming style to its best expression in a way that you want to, right? Because you don't,
authentic to yourself.
Right? Yeah. You don't want to get locks because you want women, but you don't actually like hair, you know. So if it's not authentic to you, you like a low cut, then by all means, right? If certain women, oh well, I like locks, and who cares? You're not gonna get. If she likes locks, and she's not for you, you're not gonna change yourself into having locks just to keep her, or just to have a certain women to be attracted to you. So with the losing interest quickly, it's primarily blind spots that guys, in a guy's personality, Or sometimes when the woman actually sees a guy in person and what she saw online wasn't aligned, there is an aspect of that. But oftentimes it's the personality aspect that's out of alignment. And she likely categorizes him as a potentially boring or uninteresting man because of his lack of sovereignty, right? What does that mean? It means sovereignty, we've said a million times, is the ability to govern his actions, right? It's the highest priority, the highest attraction point for a woman in a man. Why is that? Well, a man who's sovereign does what he wants to do. Doesn't mean he doesn't consider the woman. Now, he can consider her, especially if they're paired together. He considers her, but he's not a puppet to her. So it's not like, okay, whenever she wants this, I hop, jump, and skip and do it, right? He goes, okay, well, is that in alignment with the vision? If it's not, then it's a no to the woman, right? Even if she throws a tantrum, it's a no. And so most guys who one are afraid of losing their partner, afraid of having an argument, afraid of a tantrum, will go, oh, that's, no, man, I couldn't do that. Well, that's why she doesn't respect you. She knows that. She knows you're too fearful to do that, right? And so the boundaries that exist over how you expect to be treated, like how you treat her with respect, yet you allow disrespect upon yourself. So she's like, well, he respects the people he's talking to, yet he allows himself to be disrespected.
Right.
And that leads back into what you were saying earlier, which is that if a man approaches you and you're like, you're thirsty, trying to get me to like you, trying to get you to like them, even though you don't know them, the reason that's repugnant, the reason that's repulsive, the reason that repels you is because fundamentally you're looking for a man, one, who's sovereign, right? Governs himself. Two, as a woman, it's preferable for a woman to follow a man's lead than a man to try to get her to lead him.
Right.
Because whoever is leading has the burden of responsibility. So if a man approaches a woman and says, hey, can you like me, please? What she hears is, hey, your liking of me is going to dictate how I feel about myself. And so that's a responsibility that a man she doesn't know is coming up to her trying to put on her. Right? So it's like, hey, if you would just love me, I promise, if you would just love me, it would, if you would just like me, if you would just have sex with me, that would be so amazing. That would be so incredible. Like, don't worry, I'm willing to take you out on dates. I'm willing to be a gentleman. I'm willing. Just please, you're so gorgeous. Just please. If you would just like me, if you would just, I can't imagine how I would look with you on my arm. Ew. Right? And so they're not explicitly saying this, but women emotionally understand that. And they'll go, oh, you're not thirsty. I mean, you're thirsty. What they're saying is your emotional regulation, your level of happiness and fulfillment within your life is going to be dependent upon me.
Right.
And so if I go, oh, well, I'm not feeling good today, she now needs to go, well, I can't let John know that because John's going to crumble internally if I'm not nice to him today, or if I'm feeling a little weird because of my cramps or something. John's going to crumble, which now means it's a mother-son dynamic. Whereas a woman prefers something closer to a father-daughter dynamic where the responsibility of leadership is on a man she looks up to and respects. And whenever I say father-daughter dynamic, it simply means it's a guardian or a guide male figure that she trusts to go to for leadership and guidance. Because when you have someone who's more competent than you guiding you through something you've never been through, it's an easier state.
Yeah.
It's a state where you can flow.
Right.
It's a state where less risk. It's a state that's safer, more secure. All things that women are like, bing, 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 bing. Yes, all those things are what we want. Right. And the reason I say father or daughter is because for most women, that's the initial relationship where that experience is had, where there's this male figure where I'm one of his highest priority, if not his highest priority, and he's making sure I go through life smoothly.
Right.
And so that relationship can be transitioned into the man that she has the most respect and desire for. And I call it father, daughter, because one is something we're all familiar with rather than calling it some other thing that I have to explain. People understand, okay, I can see what that would look like.
Yeah.
Right. And it allows a man to understand that even if he has to correct his woman to go, okay, we're going off path from the vision we agreed to, he comes at it in a compassionate way, in the same way a father would to a daughter. Right. I can't let my daughter go off the deep end.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to be mean-spirited about it because I care about her.
Yeah.
Right. So it's compassionate correction rather than resentful correction or frustrated correction where the woman gets defensive as a result.
Yeah.
And it can't just be pure compassion, because then there's no accountability. And so you're training the woman to go, okay, well, when I do something negative, I'm not getting any connection point to how my behavior is causing problems for you and causing problems for us as a group.
Yeah.
And so she'll keep doing it. And because you're too afraid that she'll be upset or she may threaten to leave, you go, well, I'm not going to say anything. Right. And again, when that thing is said, it's the compassionate correction. It's, baby girl, we have to talk. And come at it from an angle where the goal is for both of us to be better and both get to what we desire, rather than a confrontational, you messed up. Nobody, I don't care who the guy is, even as a guy, responds well to that. Even if they're in the wrong. How someone goes about the correction matters.
Right.
So that being said, we're going a little more into other things, but coming back, those factors, fundamentally, again, a woman is with a man because it benefits her.
Yeah.
How it feels when she's in his presence feels so damn good that she's like, I want him. And that's that. And until I can find something that is a greater emotional experience in this, assuming that the guy doesn't want her back, she's going to always want him. And then when there's a greater emotion, like, oh, whoa, there are actually higher levels to how I can feel about a man or feel in a man's presence, then it's like, okay, well, this is superior.
Yeah.
Right. And the hypergamy conversation comes in there because guys will think, oh, well, that means women are running around looking for men to. No, it's not like that. For a lot of reasons. There's a lot to lose for a woman. Plus, she's just not filtering. When a woman is highly into a man, there's not much for her to gain running around trying to test out, can this man give me a greater experience? Did this man give me a greater? It's too much to lose. Unless that woman has a certain value system to where she couldn't be trusted anyway. But you have to evaluate that within the beginning of the relationship. And that's why you don't get sold on a woman just because she's pretty and then you go, okay, can I bow down? And if you could just like me, please. Because the moment you do that, she's like, oh, this ain't daddy.
Right.
This is a son. Now, if you have enough resources, she's going to be like, come on, sonny boy, you have a Rolls Royce? Right? Let mommy take care of that for you. Right? And she go, oh my God, oh, I'm so flattered. Oh my goodness, I'd love to go on a date.
Right.
Right? Oh yeah, let's go to something. And I think it's, oh my God. Guy goes, oh yeah, I brought first date, I bought you a $15,000 diamond ring. I just felt like, and so she knows this dude perceives himself as significantly below me. We had the conversation about compensation. So he's showing me that he perceives himself as down here, and we said the feminine mirrors the masculine. So if you're showing up in a way and treating her in a way where it's like, oh, you are so much more superior to me, your presence is so much more valuable than mine, that I need to make sure that I give you these things in order for you to stay. And how do we know that's true? Because he doesn't do that for anyone else. He doesn't just go up. You have to understand, I don't think guys think about this. This is a stranger. How many strangers do you just walk up to and say, hey, do you want $500? It's like, oh, no, I didn't give her $500. You didn't give her the money, but you gave her the $500 in the form of the flight. $500 in the form of the whatever dinner you didn't even really want to have. You wanted a beef patty, right? But you're like, well, I need to and so what you don't realize you're doing is, from her point of view, I'm a stranger. So if this guy just goes up to random women because they're pretty and just compensates and overdoes it, one, I know that he doesn't perceive himself as very much.
Yeah.
And so why would I lift him up higher than he sees himself?
Yeah.
But I'm still going to play along because there are benefits to this. So if all he wants is a little sex, then okay. That's nothing to me in exchange for $10,000, $20,000 worth of stuff. Right? And those cold truths are things that I don't think enough guys really sit with. And why it's so critical to evaluate a woman's character up front, because then you think, well, she's having sex with me, therefore she loves me, therefore she values me. She's like, no, she's doing business. There are benefits to you. And if opening her legs is the, okay, I do it for free with the guys I like. Okay. Right. And it's just like that. You're making a way bigger deal out of this than I make out of it. So, and as a man, if you really want to understand, it's like thinking, let's say a woman that you're like, oh, she's all right. And she comes up to you and she's like, oh, assuming this is not some kind of setup. She's like, oh, yeah, she's wealthy, all these things. And she's like, yeah, I just love to take you out. I'll take you to the Bahamas and it's all on me. All I want is for us to have some quality time together. And you already know what that means. And before the trip, she's like, by the way, I got you like a new car, all these things. The dude's going to be like, hold up. You'd be like, whoa, one, you'd look at her kind of sideways, especially if she's attractive, right? You'd be like, something must be wrong with her.
Right.
Because she's gorgeous and she keeps spending money on me and da-da-da-da-da. You're like, wait, isn't it different for men and women? That woman has a guy and several men that she's had sex with no requirement. Not because, the false assumption guys have been conditioned with is their presence is less valuable than a woman's presence. So in order for a woman to open to them sexually, they need to be compensating them in some capacity financially. That's just not true. That's only true for men she doesn't want that much. But that same woman has had sex with several men that she just wanted to have sex with. I know that's crazy that women just want to have sex with men. But women want to have sex all the time, often. It's just not with every man. So if you want to be the kind of man that a woman wants to, like variety of women want to have sex with just because they see you, just because you're so damn charismatic, sexy, and in terms of your looks and in terms of your actual personality, then you have to develop yourself in certain ways. And then you'll get access to it. You no longer need to have but I gave that example to show like you'd go like there's something wrong with her. So it's the same way, right? The woman goes, oh, dang, this dude doesn't know me from, a can of paint. And he's ready to drop 20 grand to fly me out. She has to perceive you as beneath her because she doesn't have to give you anything. She doesn't have to do anything. And then there's the implied exchange where she knows that you're doing this because you want to have sex with her. She's not stupid. But she knows she doesn't have to have sex with you. So we're going to play this game. I remember when I used to, way back, early 20s, well, I guess not way back, but, early 20s when I worked at Nordstrom, and I was in the shoe department, and this homegirl of mine, she was describing the very thing we're talking about. And a guy, she was probably 24, her friend was 24 to 23, around there. And she was describing the process, right? And there are words for guys like this, that women like this, like the city girl consciousness type, called cockroaches. There's a language, there's a community. Like, and I don't think guys understand. And so I remember one time when she was sharing some stories with me, and the guy, 10 racks, go enjoy yourself with your friends and all that. And I remember going like, what? There's no way. And she laughed, and she's like, yeah, there is. Right. At that time, I had no idea the depths of which guys would go in order to compensate. So that was still new to me at the time. And I was like, there's no way. And she's like, yeah, we call them cockroaches. It's like a thing, and da 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 da. I was like, wow. And she was describing how they'd go about like more or less getting what they needed out of the guy without offering anything sexually. And I was like, that's stupid. Why would I ever? I just could not comprehend. And I remember she looked at me, she's like, well, duh, it wouldn't work on your type because you're too strong-headed and you know too much about your worth. Right. And which is funny because for other reasons, we won't go into the video. But even that same girl, there was I remember a story was, because I was only there for I think 2 months, 3 months. This was around COVID. And a guy, I remember a dude there shared a story about, a coworker that was there way before me, shared a story about a guy who used to work there, who that same girl invited over, and either by her pool or something, but somehow she was naked, either when he got there or when she went in the room to go grab something, came back out naked, blah, blah, blah. More or less wanted it to go down, and the guy was, I'm good, like, that's not really the time I'm on right now, all that. But she really wanted him to have a physical experience with him. And on the other end,
the guy that she
not feeling, and so I think it's really important. No, this is common knowledge amongst the internet these days. The thing that guys aren't understanding that is incorrect is that they assume that it's a money thing. Like, a woman will do a lot because she's being compensated, in the same way a lot of men would do a lot of things if they're compensated. That's not a woman thing. There are a lot of dudes with the Diddy situation that did a lot of things that they wouldn't do for free, but with the right number. So why do you think a woman is gonna, like, that's not a woman thing? Right. There are a lot of people that will do something strange for some change. Right. So it's important to get out of this, like, well, if you got the bag, men and women will do a lot of things that they wouldn't do for enough cash. However, what my point is that for the guy who feels like she's losing attraction quickly, the blind spots in your personality and your physicality is likely a big component of the range of women you have access to. And it's not this thing of you need to have 1 billion followers on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube all at once with 100 pack and be 7, 8, right? And these ridiculous figures in order to get a normal human being to like you. That's just not the reality of it. And in due time, I'll share a bit more in terms of some examples of this. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave it. More or less, if you're predictable, right, and you're always going to be predictable if you're not sovereign. So guys will think, oh, you need to just not text her back or wait for the... No. If you're actually leading your life, you have a clear vision, you're moving to the drum of your life, unpredictability will be built in, because a woman will never know when she'll get your attention. She'll never know when you're going to say yes, when you're going to say no, within reason, right? And so that unpredictable, she doesn't know when you're going to, oh, let's go over here. Oh, I want to go check this. She'll never know that because you're leading your life.
Right. It's not something you do as a tactic.
No.
Right.
The only time you become super predictable is if you stop expanding as a man, which leads to boredom. And this is where we're going to end it. Or if you do everything she tells you. Right. So if a woman knows no matter what I tell him, he'll do it, even if he doesn't want to do it, even if it's going to cost him his peace, even if it's going to cost him the vision, he'll do whatever I say because he's too fearful of me walking up. Mm-hmm. So now you're predictable. There is no chaos in the sense, because that's what chaos is, the unpredictability of life. There is no excitement. There's no spontaneity because she knows he's whipped. And so when that occurs, the feeling she has in your presence dissipates because there is no man here. There's my child that I call my husband, that I call my boyfriend. And so when she encounters a man, a sovereign man, no, you don't want that. Because he's going to start sparking emotions in her that she hasn't felt in a while. Right. And she won't be able to explain it, but she's going to feel a craving for him that she knows when she goes back home to see you she doesn't have. Right. Again, ideally she breaks up with you and then goes, or divorces you and then, but a lot of times that's just not how it's going to play out. Right? So what is a man to do? A man must recenter himself within himself. What is your vision? What matters to you? Independent of your woman. Right. Because if your woman leaves, if your woman throws a tantrum, are you dead? Do you disappear from planet Earth in existence? Right. And so a man must get back in tune with who he is. Right. And then from that place, then we can start having a conversation about what it looks like to reestablish the dynamic, or to invite a woman into your world that's excited about you and loves how she feels in your presence. But you have to know what your presence is to begin with. Right. And if your presence is only, well, my presence is whatever she'll like, and you don't even exist. Mm-hmm. And
she'll lose that interest.
Bingo. And so, a thought that I had that can help guys understand this is that when you think about what it means to stay alive or to be alive means there's a future. Right. It means there's a tomorrow. When we die, there's no tomorrow. That's what death means. There is no tomorrow. There is no next moment. That's it. So it's like, okay, what does that have to do with a woman excitement in a relationship? Well, you have to think, if you're in a proper dynamic as the leader of the relationship, as a woman would desire, if you're leading and she's following, the excitements of life she's going to experience through you in a big way. Because you're leading us north, south, east, west. So what that experience is like will be heavily dependent upon the man you're showing up as. So that's really important. So going back to why we bring up life and death, the future and all that. Well, if a woman can predict the next 50 days, right? You're going to show up, you're going to do this, we're going to do this, you're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And it's been that way for the past year. And she's like, it's going to probably be this way for the next 6 months. She'll start feeling negative emotion within the context of the dynamic. The reason for this is because of what we talked about earlier. If yesterday, today, and tomorrow are the same day, then there's no difference between the past and the future. So that means if there's no difference between the past and the future, there is no future. The past is the future. So everything you've lived up to this point is everything you live for the unforeseeable future, which is the same thing as death. Death is a futureless state. Nothing else will happen. And so, because you're the leader, that's why a lot of women go, oh, date nights, and I want to, you said that the other day. Mm-hmm. What she's asking for is spontaneity or unpredictability to balance out all the order that she has. She wants the order, but she also needs the unpredictability. Mm-hmm. And it's very likely that in the beginning, unless she was coming out of a super chaotic situation, there was unpredictability mixed in with the order in the beginning of the relationship. Mm-hmm. But over time, it's like, oh, she's still here. So there's literally nothing in the dynamic that is of any fun. Right. Everything is the same as yesterday, as tomorrow's. And so now it's boredom. And so now it's the rising pandemic of women going on TikTok saying, I divorced my husband because the marriage was too boring. And guys going, man, you left the dynamic because it was boring. I don't condone that. And I want the guys to go, if I'm married right now, or if I'm going to reestablish a relationship in the future, rather than going, she shouldn't have, going, okay, what did I do to contribute to that? Right? Is there anything that I can adjust and change moving forward, or do I just throw the towel and go, women are unreasonable? Because she can't fight her nature. Right? She's not a man. So she has different desires and requirements. Just like how women can't go, a man should be like a woman. As a guy, we don't respond well to that. So similarly, we have to be able to go, okay, she's not a man. So she's not going to need the same things I do. So that's where I'll end it for today.